$9. Myrtle Beach, perfect for your family vacation. Great golf, and some of the biggest names in entertainment. We even make it easy to visit Myrtle Beach with great vacation packages from only $199. Only on Myrtle Beach Jet Express. Call 1-800-FUN-TUCSON today.
This is Lifetime, television for women.
I think that from the beginning, Sonny knew that he was the one that had to be the straight man through all of it. He never was deluded in thinking that he was the great singer or he was the great talent. But without him, I would have never walked on the stage. There would be no Cher without Sonny.
What is it about younger men that attracts you? Why younger men and not older men?
I used to rack my brain to figure it out. And then one day I realized older men never ask me out. Never.
This was my first interview with Cher, and it came at the precise moment when it was apparent that her acting career was no fluke. She tells the entire Sonny and Cher story. Their relationship was, to say the least, unusual. And so, by the way, was the house where she was living. In a moment, one of my favorite people to interview.
Maya Angelou, tomorrow at 7 on Lifetime, television for women.
Cher is one of the most flamboyant women in show business. Her striking wardrobe and unconventional lifestyle have made her looks, her loves, and her life the subject of headlines since she was a teenager. Born in 1946 and raised in Los Angeles, Sherilyn Sarkisian LaPierre met Salvatore Bono in 1964. A year later, they became Sonny and Cher.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
Their song was a hit, and their long hair and mod clothes were memorable. But there were several lean career years between their #1 hit and their comeback with the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour in 1971.
The beat goes on. The beat goes on.
Their on-camera marital bickering was good for laughs and good for the ratings. The show lasted until 1974, and so did the marriage. Just 1 year later, Cher came back with her own television variety show.
I was born in the wagon of a traveling show.
It featured her music, her comedy, her body, her hair, and her famous Bob Mackie gowns. But there was no Sonny and no ratings. So Cher turned to Las Vegas to the successful tune of $300,000 a week. It wasn't until 1981 that Cher fulfilled her teenage dream to become an actress, with a part in the Broadway play and then the film, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Critics panned the show, but loved Cher. The role led to an offer to play opposite Meryl Streep in the 1983 film Silkwood, and to an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. But it was her 1985 starring role in the film Mask, a true story about the relationship between a mother and her disfigured son, which brought her not only box office success, but finally acceptance as an actress. Cher's personal life has not been as successful. A difficult childhood, a less than amicable divorce from Sonny, and then the on-again, off-again marriage to rock musician Greg Allman. The failure of that marriage was blamed on Allman's alleged drug use. The most constant relationship in her life is with her 2 children. Chastity Bono was born in 1969 and was first introduced to the public on television with her parents. Cher's son, by Greg Allman, Elijah Blue, came 7 years later. They grew up in this Egyptian-style house in Los Angeles, which Cher designed. It looked like Tara on the Nile. When we spoke in 1985, Cher had the house on the market for $4.7 million.
I wanted the living room to be like stepping into some sort of a religious place that's very open and kind of clean. I thought the dining room should be kind of mysterious, and so that you could look really fabulous in the nighttime.
At this time, her bedroom was totally black and white.
Black to me is not dark and dank and terrible. Black to me is beautiful.
You're black and white. The black hair, the pale skin.
And also my personality is pretty black and white.
Is it really?
Yeah.
If you didn't know you and you saw you, what do you think you look like?
I think I look fabulous. It's like someone said to Dolly Parton, you know, how can you dress like that? And how can you look like that? And she said, you know, when I look in the mirror, I think I look beautiful. And I like the way I look. I think there's a lot of humor. It makes me laugh to see myself. I get a kick out of me. I even talk to myself sometimes saying, I can't believe your nerve, or I can't believe you pulled this one off. Right, I mean, I don't take myself as seriously as some people think.
You've said sometimes that Cher is an invention. Okay, what did you invent?
I invented someone who was funny and interesting and not the most beautiful person on the block, and yet still could convey that kind of feeling across, and someone who is open and not open, and I think that you can invent your life as you go along. I mean, you know, you're born with this huge piece of paper or canvas, and you can put anything on it you want to.
What was the childhood like? I read that things were so bad that you were, for a while, lived in a Catholic charity home.
Well, my mother had to work, and there was no place to put me, so she put me into this. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know if it was a home or an orphanage or something like that. And it was rough, and I know my mother was working all night, like in an all-night diner. And kind of the hard part on me was that she had to put me from place to place while she was doing these jobs. And I think that that's a reason, too, why I have kind of a hard time staying with anything for too long a time. Mm-hmm. I like to kind of move from thing to thing.
Your mother was married 8 times.
Yes, 3 times to my father. And yet I never remember a man in the house.
That's crazy. I mean, what did she do? Did she get married for 2 minutes? They never came home?
She married my father. She left my father. She married a man named Chris Alcade. She left him. Then she married my sister's father. Now, by this time, I was like 3 years old. And then I remember the other ones, but they just weren't there for very long. I have 2 memories of really fabulous fathers. My sister's father, who's dead, and my stepfather, who I have his name, Gilbert Lapierre. And
but even they weren't around very long.
Not really, but I guess they were around at times when it really was important to me.
So what does this make you think about men?
I think men are fun and nice, and I don't think they're necessary to live.
You said once they're like a chocolate mousse.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a nice dessert, but who needs it?
Well, if you're into chocolate, you know, you give up the rest of the dinner and go right to dessert.
Yeah.
I think that kind of the way I grew up, Chastity has a decent father. I think Sonny's a decent father. I think he...
Your daughter's...
Yes. Elijah's father is absolutely useless and not worthwhile at all.
Greg Allman.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't called Elijah in 2 years.
Tell me about your father.
You know, my father is dead. He just died, and I don't feel anything about him. I met him when I was 11.
Now, he married your mother 3 times, so he had to have been in and out of the house a little bit. Never knew him before?
No.
He left your mother when you were how old?
My mother left him when I was a year old.
Okay.
And I met him when I was 11, and he was very showy. I mean, he was flashy. And also, everyone in my family, except my great-grandmother was dead, was blonde. And when I saw this dark man walking into the house, for the first time I thought, okay, so now I understand everything. This is where I came from.
Did he look like you?
Exactly. But my sister was blonde, my mother was blonde, sure. Everyone, my uncle, all of his kids.
I would have thought you would have adored him. Daddy.
I did for 6 months, and then he was such a letdown to me that it crushed everything.
What did he do?
Well, he was a heroin addict at the time, and he almost burned our house down. And he pawned all my mother's jewelry, and And there was a part, if I'd known him when he was younger, I think I would have liked him because he and I were a lot alike in good qualities. But he had led the life of in and out of jail and a junkie for so long that it kind of just, it took over.
And yet she married him again after that.
You know, I couldn't understand my mother with him. My mother couldn't seem to see him the way everyone else could see him, or the way I could see him.
Did you ever see him again after you were 11? Did he ever become a part of your life?
He tried to, but you know, usually, like, he'd do one nice thing, and then I remember being in New York and this Armenian rug dealer calling me up and saying, your father gave me a bad check, and he said you'd be responsible for it, and the reason I know he was your father was that he sold me this picture of you and your daughter and him together. And it was the only picture we'd ever taken. And it was Chastity, my father, and me, and he sold it to this guy. And I just thought, you know, I haven't got time for this.
Then how, after this experience with your father, could you ever have married Greg Holman?
Who knows why I married Gregory? I kind of think I married Gregory because I felt so controlled by Sonny. I knew that Gregory couldn't even control himself, much less control me. And I didn't feel threatened by him. And also, he had one of the sweetest personalities of anyone I've ever known.
It's interesting because you marry Sonny when you're a kid, who's like a father.
Yes.
And then you married Greg, who's like a son. Could you risk, in your own mind, getting married again?
Sure. Yeah, it's scary to me, but I could do it. You know, I think the only reason I don't want to get married is because failing in front of America is very difficult.
But you never much cared what people thought. At least one didn't think you cared what people thought.
Well, I don't care enough to change what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But, of course, it hurts you. I mean, it's hard to have people think of you as kind of this vacuum cleaner with a belly button, you know, and be out there and be fairly intelligent and pretty perceptive and know that people have this kind of strange idea and still be too stubborn to change.
Yeah, there was a point, I don't know whether you, I doubt that you still feel it now, where you said everybody thought you were such a tramp that it was as if you'd slept with the whole...
Right, the Mormon Tabernacle.
Mormon Tabernacle
right.
choir, yeah.
Well, I've been around the block, you know. I haven't been around as much as most of the people that I know, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I like to like someone that I'm with. I've never been one so much for just going out and seeing someone and thinking that they're cute enough to take home.
Cher, when you have different men in your life, what does it do to your kids?
Oh, I'm sure it does terrible things to them. I don't know. I think that it gives them a feeling that no one is permanent. And also...
Except mother.
Yes.
You think you're a good mother?
I love my children. You know, I don't know if that's being a good mother. I think there are lots of things that I do wrong, and I think there are lots of things that I do right. You know, if I were going to live for my children alone, I would probably just settle with one man and make a good Betty Crocker type of home life. Life doesn't work that way for me, and they're just going to have to be strong enough to rise above it.
Next, Cher on Growing Older.
To Pepper.
Do you like you?
Sometimes. Sometimes I really don't. Sometimes I really feel unworthy and really silly and very childish and sometimes really stupid, not intellectually, but just as a human being I feel kind of superficial. I go through that, you know, like only caring how I look or, you know, why did they print that picture of me? I don't know if it's something that has to do with being an entertainer, or it has to do with being a woman, or it has to do with all of it.
Do you have a lot of confidence?
Yes and no. Sometimes I have great amounts of confidence, and most of the time I think that I'm really lacking.
In what?
In confidence. I do things, I am motivated, I think, out of a lack of confidence. I'm motivated to do things that are good out of a lack of confidence.
What frightens you the most, either personally or professionally?
I guess professionally that no one will want the work that I have to give. and privately, I guess I'll say the first thing that came to my mind, and that is that I don't grow old gracefully. Not necessarily beautifully, but with a sense of humor and an air.
I bet you will.
I hope I will. I think, you know, and also, and that I won't think about it as much as I do. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot more important things to think about than, am I going to grow old gracefully? You know, growing older doesn't mean much to me, but I know that it's harder to work, it's harder, you lose a lot. You gain in your inside, but you lose what the world thinks about you. I think that maybe it's a good time to be older in America because all of the women who are older are really kicking ass.
Also now, I mean, it used to be that when you became 40, supposedly there was no sex life, supposedly there was no sexuality anymore. Now,
I mean, you know, I think that that's a myth, but it was a myth that we were all having to live with. It's okay when you're 20, but then when you're approaching 40, you think, I don't feel this way, so, you know, I feel young.
do you still want to do Las Vegas? The fact that you're now an actress and taken seriously. Do you still want to go out in the scant costume and do the big show?
I had to do it for a little while, you know. I sold myself down the river. I gave up my money, I gave up Las Vegas, and I gave up touring. But at that moment, I thought, you know, I've just got to give this up, and I went to New York. I mean, they all just, you know, life is, I've never planned. I guess it would be better if I had, but I just don't want to. I want to just live life. I just want to have a good time and enjoy myself and do things, you know, just do things because I want to do them.
If after this big success, everything that's happened to you now that's so good, if you had a big flop and you were out, you know, nobody cared, would you care that much now?
Sure.
Yeah, but it wouldn't destroy you.
It's never destroyed me. I've been up and down so many times I could be a prize fighter. I mean, you know, I've been on the in and the out list so many times in 20 years that I don't take it as seriously to be on the in list, and it doesn't hurt as badly to be on the out list. And I think that if you're turning out work that makes you feel good, it's not as important if it is a huge financial success. Before, I used to turn out work that was a huge financial success, and it wasn't quite as gratifying to me.
Recently, you said in an interview, I really have known pain. What's the most painful time, and what's the best time?
The most painful, I think, was right before I left Sonny, and the happiest was right after I left him. For about a year, I don't think my feet ever touched the ground.
You were that glad to be away from him. Wow.
Everything was new. Everything was new. And I don't think he knew how unhappy I was, but I was really unhappy. I weighed like about 95 pounds. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And I thought, I'm either going to leave him or I'm going to jump off this balcony. And then I thought, no, I don't really want to jump. I'll just leave. And I left, and I was happy. Unfortunately, he had to go through an awful lot of pain for a little while. But those were the happiest and unhappy times. And one other time was when I had Chastity. I think the night that I had Chastity, if I think in my life what the happiest moment without anything else surrounding was that night.
Do you like Sonny now? I know you're not friendly with him. Do you feel good about him?
You know...
Or is it just a pain?
No. One part of me is really angry with him.
Why?
Because he did things that he didn't have to do. You know, sometimes when you're holding something and you don't want to let it go and you just smother it, you know. And yet, I think I get a lot of strength and a lot of wisdom from Sonny because Sonny was like my father. So I love Sonny on one hand, and I really am angry with him on the other.
Still?
Yeah.
Because it's now been quite a few years.
It's 10 years.
Yeah.
But it really, when I got away from Sonny, I was the happiest person that you ever wanted to meet. I felt like a slave who was being set free. And not necessarily because he was a terrible master, but a master's a master.
Why are you still mad?
Because it took me such a long time to get over like simple things that I didn't realize where they came from. The first guy that I ever went out with, we were going to a movie, And he turned to me and said, "What movie do you want to see?" And I started to cry. And I couldn't understand why. And it was that he asked me what I wanted to do. And Sonny and I have talked about this, and he said, "You know, I'm sorry, but at the time it was the only way I thought I could keep it all together."
Were you mad about it?
I saw Sonny Bono in a place underneath a radio station. He walked in the door, and someone said, "There's Sonny." I turned around to look at him, and I swear to God, and it's never happened to me since, everything went like to star filter around him, and there was only him standing there. And I had never seen anyone. I mean, look, he was ugly. You know, he wasn't much to look at, but here was his really, he had this long hair, and he was dressed like I'd never seen anyone dressed before. And he had this thing, you know, he had this thing. And men that I knew just were not like that.
But does it make you feel bad today in any way, then, that you have made it so much and he hasn't?
I think that from the beginning, Sonny knew that he was the one that had to be the straight man through all of it, through everything. And he never was deluded in thinking that he was the great singer or he was the great talent. But without him, I would have never walked on the stage. There would be no Cher without Sonny.
If somebody had never heard of you, and you had to summarize your life,
Yeah.
what would that paragraph say?
I would explain that she was this kind of kid that came from no place, came from the valley, not particularly attractive, not particularly talented in any way that anyone could see. She could sing and dance a little, she was funny, but she had something, and she went on to be successful in everything that she endeavored. Every time I've gone into a field, I've been successful at it. And she was a little flaky.
Cher. She has always bucked the conventional, and it's always worked for her. Maybe she believes in the amazing power of rejuvenation. Or maybe she just believes in herself. In a moment, my interview with Cher 3 years later.
Oprah Winfrey narrates intimate portrait Maya Angelou.
Tomorrow at 7.
The interview you're about to see ran on the night that Cher picked up an Oscar for Moonstruck. It forever put to rest the notion that she was somehow a phenomenon that would soon pass. People complimented me in this interview because they said it was so immediate and so intimate. I told them, it's not me. That's the way Cher is. 1987 proved to be a turning point for Cher. Even with an impressive musical comeback and a growing acting resume, Cher continued to find herself the butt of jokes and the target of tabloids. She may have been famous, but respect seemed to elude her. But like all true survivors, Cher persevered. In a string of acclaimed acting performances, Cher proved without a shadow of a doubt that she was a star and a talent to be reckoned with. First, she played opposite Jack Nicholson in The Witches of Eastwick. Next, as an attorney in Suspect. And finally, as a middle-aged widow who falls in love in Moonstruck. And when she took home a Best Actress Academy Award for that role in Moonstruck, Cher, the legitimate actress, had finally arrived. And in case her achievement had escaped anyone's attention, her outfit that night would never let them forget her.
We are rolling, camera's rolling, and playback.
Cher's return to the world of rock and roll cemented her popularity. Instantly, she had a new generation of fans and a new boyfriend, Robert Camilletti, one of the many younger men she always seemed to be attracting.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
While promoting her album, she and ex-husband Sonny were reunited for one night on Late Night with David Letterman. They sang their first hit, I Got You, Babe. Cher had clearly become her own woman, one secure enough to poke fun at herself. It was this confident but down-to-earth Cher that I met when we spoke for the second time in 1988. Her career couldn't have been busier, but she had simplified her home life. Gone was the Egyptian mansion, in its place a loft in downtown Manhattan. Cher took us along as she shopped for the family groceries in her favorite market, Balducci's.
Boy, you know, Cher, I think people are going to be surprised that you do your own marketing. You know, they'll think somebody comes and does it for you, and...
You know what, I really enjoy it. I like, you know what, I think Chastity, Elijah, Robert, they all have their favorite things here. So when I come home with all of their favorite things, oh, this looks fabulous. Can we try this cheese?
Sure. What is it?
It's a torta basilico. Nice.
Onto the sausage?
Yeah, onto the salami. And prosciutto and...
It's been said that Cher has 9 lives. She is relentless in her pursuit of new challenges and always seems to come out on top. In the years since this interview, for instance, Cher has reinvented herself as a businesswoman. She came out with her own line of hair and skincare products, starred in health and fitness videos, and even created her own mail-order home furnishing catalog called Sanctuary. But through it all, what I admire most in Cher has remained consistent. Her honesty.
Now that your life has changed and you are a serious actress,
Yes.
Are there certain things that you used to do that you don't do? You know, the do's and don'ts, now you have to change your life a little bit.
I don't, you know, that's the one thing I hope I never do is change my life because I'm not different in any way. I mean, I think that I should be more secure, but I know I'm not. So I was about to say maybe I'm more secure, but I know that's ridiculous. But I don't believe that I should change my life just because I wanted to better it. I don't think I should now limit myself for achieving a better position. And I don't really, there are things that I want to do that I know serious actresses don't do, but I want to do them anyway.
You've just recorded a new album, the
Yes.
first in 5 years, rock and roll.
Yes.
Okay. Will you continue to sing? Will you continue to do rock and roll?
Well, you know, I'm a child of the 60s, you know, 50s and 60s. Rock and roll is my music. And even though I'm an older child, that's my music, you know. And I really didn't want to make the album. I just thought that all of the things that I had done in music, I probably had done my best music. But the truth of the matter is this is the best album I've ever made. And I like it. I feel pretty proud of it.
Do you worry that anything that you do will take away from this perception of you now as a very fine actress?
I think that you can only judge my work by my work, and if I do good work, see, I think that's one of the hard things that's one of the things that doesn't make sense to me. It's like if my work is good, then all you can judge my work on is my work, and if I want to sing rock and roll, and you don't have to go to it. I mean, you know, people should only go to see what they want to see. So if I'm doing a good job, I should be able to do what I want to do.
You said, I will never get an Oscar. Remember when you used to say that?
I probably, yeah. I mean, it might still be true.
Do you think it's true?
I don't really know, but I think that they might be more willing to... I mean, I didn't go away, and I think that's kind of what they thought, you know, that I might go away, but I kind of didn't go away.
You stayed there.
So I'm still here, and I think that, you know, this is maybe a trial through fire.
You weren't even nominated for Mask.
No.
Did that hurt you a lot?
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much killed me. I thought maybe that was probably the best work I would ever do, and I would never do anything that would approach that, and if they didn't like that, then I never had a chance at any kind of a nomination, much less to the Oscar itself.
How do you feel now? Do you think that you will win an Academy Award for Best Actress? Do you think you deserve to win it?
Yeah.
Will you be crushed if you don't?
Oh, maybe for a few minutes, but then I don't think I will be. I think that it's not enough to be nominated. I think that's bull.
I mean, people say, I'm happy to have been nominated. That's not it.
Well, I think you can only say that after you've been nominated, because I know what it feels like not to have been nominated. Then you just, you know, you feel unbelievably bad. But it's not enough just to be nominated. You must win one time.
Have you given any thought at all to what you will say if you win?
Oh, all the time, every day in the shower.
Listen, you may not say it now.
No, I know, but I mean, no, it's always a different thing. It's like, I want to thank everybody. I don't want to thank anybody. I mean, I just go, I just like, my mind is, runs rampant in the shower. Like when I'm holding the soap, I'm always deciding what I'm going to say. And then I think, well, and if I don't, it'll be a fun night too. I'll look good. I'll see lots of people. It'll be really exciting. It'll be a good time.
What are you going to wear?
I'm going to wear a really beautiful black net, very skimpy to look at, but to the floor, gown that Bob has designed.
Bob Mackie.
Right.
Yeah.
I wore a dress to the Golden Globes because I wanted people to know that I knew how to dress, that I just chose to dress the way I chose to dress, I mean, I know what's appropriate, but appropriate to me seems very misplaced in our society. It's like, I believe that if you look at, let's say, the Reverend Jimmy Swaggart, or if you look at Ronald Reagan, or if you look at all of these people who are supposed to be the pillars of our society, and if you look at the way they dress, well, they dress very appropriate, but I question their interiors. And I don't question my interior. My exterior is unimportant.
When you did the David Letterman show,
Yeah.
you came out in this interesting outfit with your whole tush showing,
Yes.
with the garter bands. Okay, what were you trying to say there? Here, this was not that long ago you were being this serious actress, and you come out in this marvelous...
That outfit is 11 years old. And when I was getting ready to do my first video, I just pulled it out and I thought, oh God, if I get into this, that would be very cool for, on stage. And then the night that I was doing David Letterman, I just thought, well, when I talk, I'll wear something that I can talk in, because if I tried to sit down and talk in that outfit, no one would pay any attention to what I was saying. But when I sing, that's what I want to wear,
You sang with Sonny.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you feel that night that it kind of washed away a lot of the past feelings? I mean, for most of us, it was so nostalgic.
Well, I'll tell you something, that the electricity in that room that night was unbelievable. People were so emotional. People in the audience were crying.
I felt that way at home. I mean, it brought back the past.
Oh, I know, but I think it conjured up for people something in their own past that Sonny and I symbolized, And I was really just having a good time. And I can forgive Sonny anything when we're working together, because we did have a great time together. But I mean, I think Sonny and my relationship is the absolute definition of the love-hate relationship.
Still.
Absolutely, because there are things with Sonny that I'm kind of taking my whole life to get over. And there are other things that I learned with Sonny, or I felt about Sonny, that he was the best and the worst friend maybe I ever had, or partner I ever had.
So it's still the same, hasn't changed?
Well, I understand it maybe a little bit more, and for that night, I trust him on stage more than anybody, and there's some things about him that I trust, but honest to God, I don't really, there's so many things about him that I don't know, and there's so many things about me that he doesn't know. So it's such a complex relationship, and I don't think it can be explained, because if I can understand it, how can I explain it to anyone else? And I lived it.
Next, Cher on Younger Men.
In our last interview, you said, I think men are fun and nice, but not necessary. Still feel that way?
Yeah. I really like men a lot. I really enjoy them, and I don't think I would shrivel up and die if I didn't have one.
But then how do you hope to have a man feel that you are, caring, serious, might be with him no matter what, if you really think he's unnecessary?
It's not, see, it's like my mother's generation, I feel, had men for the wrong reasons. I don't need someone to be a great provider. I don't need I don't need them for anything except for them. If I'm with someone, the only reason I'm with them is because I want to be with that person, because I get great satisfaction out of being with the person himself. I don't need them to do anything for me.
Do you always have to be in love with them?
Yes.
One of the chords that Moonstruck strikes in all of us is this feeling that you can fall in love, and that you can be in love forever, and that it lasts. Did it invoke in you The romanticism?
I think I'm as romantic. I'm very romantic in some way, and I'm also prepared for the other. I mean, I want to be realistic to know that you have to be prepared for whatever life deals you in any way. I think life has been pretty kind to me when I see what happens to a lot of people. I talk to people. But I'm prepared. I don't want to be unrealistic either. I mean, I'd like to stay in love forever. You know, I really would. But I have to be prepared if I don't.
Tell me about Robert. I've read so much about him, you know, and some of it's true and some of it's not. So you tell me.
Oh, Robert is just the most honest person. I really depend on him a lot. He has very working class morals and ideals and judgments about things, and I really like that about him.
If I were with a man who was a lot younger,
18 years.
18 years, it would make me feel very old and insecure. Now,
I feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
do you worry about being a 60 when he's, what, I do the arithmetic, you know, like
well,
40?
I'm dyslexic, so you're not going to get that answer from
yeah,
me.
I know that. But
I'm a lot
he'd be
older.
like 40, yeah.
I don't worry about those kinds of things because I have the immediacy of what's happening to me today to worry about, and not what will happen in 20 years.
What is it about younger men that attracts you? Why younger men and not older men?
You know, I said this, I used to rack my brain to figure it out, and then one day I realized older men never ask me out. Never.
Well, suppose a great guy at 55 came along.
I would think it would be fabulous.
So it's that the younger men are the ones who are attracted to you.
Right. And also, I think I like a certain kind of a person, and I think that you can be that way at any... I mean, I have a friend who's married to this fabulous man who's like 55, and they have a great time. And yet they do things that are usually, you know, relegated. I mean, he doesn't act like an older person. I want to have someone who's really vital, and I don't care how old they are, really. I like to do things, and I want someone to have like a fresh outlook.
So it isn't that you have a thing about guys who are younger than yourself?
No, I mean, I'm not going to stay home and cry because, I mean, I'm happy that older men haven't asked me out, but if an older man did and I liked them, I certainly would go out with them. But I enjoy younger men, but they are also the only ones that ask me out, and I don't know why. Maybe... I don't know. I can't really figure it out.
Do you have any fear of growing older?
Well, yes. I mean, I have a fear that I don't know if it's unfounded in this country and in my work. I don't think that I'm, you know, obsessed with it. But in our country, older women are not looked upon as that beautiful. They lose their value. Older people, as you get older, you lose your value. I don't want to be devaluated, you know. In my business, it's unbelievable. I mean, the older you get, you just keep getting pushed back. I mean, I started a career at 35 that usually you start at 20, you know, and am enjoying, you know, the bulk of the success at 41, so that I keep hoping to defy gravity. And also I think that, you know, I hate it that men get older and have character and women get older and are old. I think that's ridiculous.
Will you grow old gracefully? You know, as they say, whatever that means. I'll grow old
kicking and screaming all the way, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what growing old gracefully is. I won't run around wearing a miniskirt if I can't show my legs. I won't, you know, I will try and do what I feel is appropriate, but I would say that most of the country wouldn't agree with my idea of appropriate. So, but I'll, you know, I'll do the best with what I have.
You got a lot. Cher, very few people know that you're dyslexic.
Yes.
That is a learning disability. How did that shape you? What did that do to you?
I tell you something, it's a little bit difficult because you have the feeling that you're really stupid. I learned almost everything I learned by hearing it in the classroom because I'm a much better reader now. I read very slowly, but also dyslexia is very interesting. It's like having a stroke because other parts of your brain click in. I can see something once and know it, you know, but, oh, I have such a hard time dialing the telephone. It drives me nuts. Long distance is like a nightmare. Or if you tell me a number is 727, I'll write 272. Numbers and I don't get along well at all.
When did you know it wasn't you, that you went a dumb kid.
Because Chastity has it, and when I took her to be, you know, when they went to study her, I found out that, you know, they asked me if I had it, and I said, well, I really don't know, and they started asking me questions, and I realized that I did.
You didn't know until you were an adult?
No. It's very uncomfortable feeling, though, because you know you're not stupid, but there are so many things that you can't do. Robert and I, the only fight we've ever gotten into was him trying to teach me to read a foreign clock, where it says 1,800 hours. I had such a hard time with it. I had it in my car, and I couldn't read the stupid thing. And he kept saying, Cher, you're so smart. You're just not trying. And it triggered all of my teachers saying, you're so smart, you're just lazy. Yeah. And it hurt me. Ooh, I got really angry.
Cher, do you care what people think of you? Do other people's opinions matter?
They matter in a certain respect, but they don't matter as much as what I think of me. Because I remember a time where people thought I was fabulous and I didn't think much of myself and I knew better, you know? So that it hurts me if people don't like me, or if it hurts me if people don't understand what I'm doing and they're angry with it. But after all, this is my one and only life. It's not a dress rehearsal for anything else. This is the only one I know about. And it's more important to me what I think of me than what other people think of me.
What do you think of you?
I think I'm becoming a better person. You know, and I think there are lots of things, you know. I think there are lots of things that I have to work on. But I don't think that the things that I think I have to work on are probably what anyone else would think I have to work on, you know, what the public would think I have to work on.
What do you have to work on?
I'm very judgmental with myself and other people. And because I'm hard on myself, I have a tendency to be hard on other people. And so sometimes I can be too tough. And so that I'm trying to work on being able to handle situations without being overly tough, you know. In my family, there's never really been a man. There's never been a man growing up. There was never a man really bringing up my own children. So it's kind of difficult to take on the man's role without having some of the characteristics of the man. So I have to always keep that in perspective.
What frightens you, personally or professionally?
Professionally, I guess not being wanted. I've gone through that and it didn't feel good. And personally, that I won't live my life as good as I know it could be lived. That I'll be stupid and not have guts and integrity and make choices that are safe.
You always answer questions honestly. You answer anything that anybody asks you.
Unless I tell them it's none of their business.
Okay.
I mean, those are my only two things.
But pretty much you do.
Yes.
Why?
Because first of all, because I don't like lying. I can't tolerate it in others, and I don't want to do it myself. I just don't like it, and I don't think that there's any worth in it. And also, I don't care what people think about my answers, basically. I mean, my answers are who I am. It's silly for me to lie about it. I've done the worst things. I've done the most stupid things. But the truth, or hiding the truth, is not going to make the thing I did better or worse. I mean, the thing I did is there. I am not being rebellious so that I can make everyone else shocked. I'm questioning what is right in life so that I can make a better life for myself. And I would hope that my choices would please everyone, but I can't make my choices to please everyone. I have to please myself.
Some men think strong opinion. Album, premiering next Sunday at 8 on Lifetime Television for Women.
I do so many interviews that it's hard for me to remember exactly what's said in each of them. But there are a few lines of Cher's that have remained with me. I remember she said that what she fears most is that she won't live her life as well as it could be lived. Playing it safe is really what scares her. I try to think of that when I have my own choices to make.
On Lifetime.
I know this is a good thing to do.
On Lifetime.
$9. Myrtle Beach, perfect for your family vacation. Great golf, and some of the biggest names in entertainment. We even make it easy to visit Myrtle Beach with great vacation packages from only $199. Only on Myrtle Beach Jet Express. Call 1-800-FUN-TUCSON today.
This is Lifetime, television for women.
I think that from the beginning, Sonny knew that he was the one that had to be the straight man through all of it. He never was deluded in thinking that he was the great singer or he was the great talent. But without him, I would have never walked on the stage. There would be no Cher without Sonny.
What is it about younger men that attracts you? Why younger men and not older men?
I used to rack my brain to figure it out. And then one day I realized older men never ask me out. Never.
A difficult childhood, a less than amicable divorce from Sonny, and then the on-again, off-again marriage to rock musician Greg Allman. The failure of that marriage was blamed on Allman's alleged drug use. The most constant relationship in her life is with her two children. Chastity Bona was born in 1969 and was first introduced to the public on television with her parents. Cher's son, by Greg Allman, Elijah Blue, came 7 years later. They grew up in this Egyptian-style house in Los Angeles, which Cher designed. It looked like Tara on the Nile. When we spoke in 1985, Cher had the house on the market for $4.7 million.
I wanted the living room to be like stepping into some sort of a religious place that's very open and kind of clean. I thought the dining room should be kind of mysterious and so that you could look really fabulous in the nighttime.
At this time, her bedroom was totally black and white.
Black to me is not dark and dank and terrible. Black to me is beautiful.
You're black and white. The black hair, the pale skin.
And also my personality is pretty black and white.
Is it really?
Yeah.
If you didn't know you and you saw you, what do you think you look like?
I think I look fabulous. It's like someone said to Dolly Parton, you know, how can you dress like that? And how can you look like that? And she said, you know, when I look in the mirror, I think I look beautiful. And I like the way I look. I think there's a lot of humor. It makes me laugh to see myself. I get a kick out of me. I even talk to myself sometimes saying, I can't believe your nerve, or I can't believe you've pulled this one off. Right, I mean, I don't take myself as seriously as some people think.
You've said sometimes that Cher is an invention. Okay, what did you invent?
I invented someone who was funny and interesting and not the most beautiful person on the block, and yet still could convey that kind of feeling across, and someone who is open and not open, and I think that you can invent your life as you go along. I mean, you know, you're born with this huge piece of paper or canvas, and you can put anything on it you want to.
What was the childhood like? I read that things were so bad that you were, for a while...
The beat goes on. The beat goes on.
Their on-camera marital bickering was good for laughs and good for the ratings. The show lasted until 1974, and so did the marriage. Just 1 year later, Cher came back with her own television variety show.
I was born in the wagon of a traveling show.
It featured her music, her comedy, her body, her hair, and her famous Bob Mackie gowns. But there was no Sonny and no ratings. So Cher turned to Las Vegas to the successful tune of $300,000 a week. It wasn't until 1981 that Cher fulfilled her teenage dream to become an actress, with a part in the Broadway play and then the film, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Critics panned the show, but loved Cher. The role led to an offer to play opposite Meryl Streep in the 1983 film Silkwood, and to an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. But it was her 1985 starring role in the film Mask, a true story about the relationship between a mother and her disfigured son, which brought her not only box office success, but finally acceptance as an actress. Cher's personal life has not been a success. This was my first interview with Cher, and it came at the precise moment when it was apparent that her acting career was no fluke. She tells the entire Sonny and Cher story. Their relationship was, to say the least, unusual. And so, by the way, was the house where she was living. In a moment, one of my favorite people to interview.
Maya Angelou. Tomorrow at 7 on Lifetime Television for Women.
Cher is one of the most flamboyant women in show business. Her striking wardrobe and unconventional lifestyle have made her looks, her loves, and her life the subject of headlines since she was a teenager. Born in 1946 and raised in Los Angeles, Sherilyn Sarkisian LaPierre met Salvatore Bono in 1964. A year later, they became Sonny and Cher.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
Their song was a hit, and their long hair and mod clothes were memorable. But there were several lean career years between their #1 hit and their comeback with the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour in 1971.